Hello everyone, this is Cherry and this is my latest video, and this time I'm making something quite different, and it was inspired by this. This is just a metal clock that was quite inexpensive from a little antique type of shop in the north of Florida on the way back from Tennessee one day. It didn't cost very much and I brought it home. And lots of people have said, oh, I really like your clock. And I looked at it and I thought, I wonder if I can make something like that in Cricut, Cricut Design Studio. And I thought, well, that would be a challenge. I'll see what I can do. So, what I made was this. Entirely out of paper, cardstock. And I thought it came out pretty well. I thought that it had the same sort of look as a metalwork clock, and it has a door at the back to access the hands and the battery and a little bit of decoration, and that's my version. So I'm going to show you in a bit more detail in a minute, but before that I'm going to show you the one I'm working on at the moment. And this one is partly constructed because it's a very sort of repetitive process and it would take far too long on a video to put it all together in front of you piece by piece. But I've left enough of it to show you how I made what's there, and I'll talk about it, the process, and show you the rest of it in a moment. But before that, I'm going to take you to my computer and I'm going to show you on the screen the pieces that you're going to cut out to make this clock. So here I am at my computer, and this is Design Space 3, and this is the file for the clock. I'm using Design Space 3 now. I much prefer it. You can still make this in Design Space 2 if you want to, in the old Design Space. But despite one or two hiccups in the new program, I must say I prefer it. It's faster, it doesn't crash so easily, it seems to have a larger print then cut area. If you want to group things together, it's easier. For example, there's several here. I just need to click on a corner of those and they will stay together, and I can group them or whatever. Anyway, the various parts of the clock are this. Let's just move this back so I can show you. This is the front of the clock, and each of these are in 4 pieces. You cut out 4 pieces and lay them on top of each other for strength. I used basil cardstock, and I think 4 pieces was a good sturdy arrangement. But if you're using different cardstocks, you may find that 3 layers, or even if it's a flimsy cardstock, 5 layers might be a better idea. But generally I should think 3 or 4 is about right. This is the back of the clock. This is a door here for you to be able to access the clock movement and put batteries in and change the time. These are the sides of the clock, so there's 4 of each of those. These are like platforms that go across here at the bottom and here at the top sideways, and it gives strength to the clock and adds a sort of ornamental, attractive design to it as well. Here's the clock face. I think I'll zoom in so you can see it a bit better. I wanted you to see the whole file, so I zoomed out. There's writing on the clock. That was just my choice. You can of course change it to whatever you want. If you click on that, you can change the script or delete it or write whatever you like and move it. In fact, this is too high up compared to where you're going to put the clock movement in the middle anyway. These pieces, oh, and I was going to say, I cut the clock face twice and put it on top of each other, and I cut the outline piece. This should be black the same, in 3, just to make a thick clock, sturdy clock face. I distressed the clock face, you'll have it, and I'll show you in a moment. And then there's these pieces here. These are the construction strips. If you look closely, you'll see that they're scored down the middle, and you fold them down that score line. And basically, the clock is held together with these construction strips. This one will be scored and folded, and then the back, or it wouldn't be the back, it would be the side actually. The side joins onto there, and so on. All 4 pieces together join onto this one construction strip. And although it looks small and flimsy, it needs to be narrow, or you will see it sticking beyond the ornamental filigree parts. But although it looks flimsy, by the time you put them all on and join them all together, it's actually quite a sturdy design. And here's the piece that fits in the hole up here. Whoops, missed it. Up here, and it fits behind there. I just put the current date on it. Again, you can leave that back piece out altogether, or you can just put any other decorative piece in. You can take the date off, whatever you want. So that's that file. There's another file, that's this one. This is the little hinges. There's a little key and padlock just for decoration, and this is what I use for the feet. 3 layers, a fleur-de-lis, and this goes behind, and it's there on each corner at both sides, you'll see, and makes quite a sturdy foot for the clock. These little latches are the only file that I purchased. You really don't need these. This was just a decorative touch that I added. You can, so if you don't want to purchase this file, which is 99 cents or 49 cents depending which access arrangement you're on. I paid 49 cents for it, but actually it's part of a Cricut cartridge called Fabulous Finds, which has got all sorts of little useful things in it, which is $14.99 if you want to buy the whole cartridge. Has 500 images. I decided to buy it myself, and because I'm on the premium subscription, it only cost me $7.49. So that's those, and again you can see I've done several layers of each of them to make them more sturdy. Finally, this is the file with the decorative flowers that I added. Again, you can add whatever decoration or not that you like, but I used these flowers and I put them in different layers on top of each other and different colours, and these are the sort of vine leaves that go down the clock, and those are the centres of the flowers. And that's the 3 files. So we'll move back to the table now, and I'll show you how I put it together. So here I am back again. I'll show you this clock in a bit more detail and explain a bit about it. It's, as I say, it's 4 layers of basil cardstock, each all glued together. Now it's probably best to glue them together with a spray adhesive. My spray adhesive stopped working properly, it was a bit sticky, and I took a different route, which I'll show you in a moment. I have this clock face here that's several layers. I made it look a little more antique with a little bit of distress ink. I think it was vintage photo around the edges. I got a clock kit, clock movement kit from Michael's. I'm not going to kid you here, but I found it a bit difficult to get put together, and this particular clock doesn't keep perfect time, but this one I'm keeping anyway as a sort of sample of what I've done, so I'm not too bothered about that. The new one, I got it worked out and it's keeping time, so that's good. At the back there's a little door that opens to gain access to the clock movement and the battery. And this one, I use those 4 little circles that you see on the, and I attached on the file, and I attached a little spin closure. On my other clock, as you'll see in a minute, I used a different kind of closure. So there's all sorts of variations you can do on that as well. I made the feet out of those fleur-de-lis, and actually they're in, looking at them here, they're in 3 layers. Just had 2 layers on the screen. I obviously did a layer in black as well to make it stronger, and I also put a little bit of this. I used a little bit of a ink pad, and I put this verdigris embossing powder on it. It's this one. I got it at a craft show actually. It says it's sparkle and sprinkle.com. Sparkle and sprinkle.com if you want to get some the same. And I just put it on in little places to try and make this look like copper with a verdigris finish to it. I also put a little bit of stamp pad, these distress inks, distress oxide, which I put fairly sparingly in places to make it look like old metal on here in various places. And I also added a little bit of this rub and buff Spanish copper wax metallic finish, which I'll show you on the one we're going to put together in a moment, just in various places, small amounts, just to make it look like it was old metal. And the roof or lid of the clock is a heavyweight piece of cardstock, although you could perhaps glue a couple together if you wanted to give it a bit more weight. And the whole thing is really quite sturdy. I don't think you really need necessarily to do 4 layers of cardstock. It really depends on what you're using. The basil one I felt 4 was a good number, but I've also got some 110 pound Recollections cardstock that I'm planning to make another clock out of. That I think 3 layers would be enough. We'll come to that in a moment. So that's the one that's finished. I'm going to show you the one that I'm making at the moment, to show you how to put it together, and that's this one. Now you'll see I did a variation on this one. For example, I use the Tim Holtz die for the clock face, so the clock face is larger. So this particular file, I stretched it outwards slightly to make the face in more proportion on the front. So I do have a file for that one too if you want to follow that pattern instead. And on the back I've used a little latch that I got from eBay. It's just and I attach that between the 2 layers of the door with the brads, and on this side I attached a little piece of card that I stuck on the inside of the cage effect. Let's see if I can show you on the camera. It's difficult to find how to. It's just a little oblong shape on the inside that I put the brads through, two oblong shapes actually. Put the brads through one of them and then stuck the other one on the back to hide the brads, and stuck it to the cage pieces. And the clock, see, yeah, it seems to be working fairly well on this one. So you just need to follow the instructions very carefully, and it's to do with how much of it sticks out the front, and sometimes you have to adjust it, maybe put a little piece of chipboard behind to make the depths of card deeper. On this one actually, instead of using cardstock, I did actually use a couple of pieces of chipboard, which I also cut out on my Cricut. You can see them better perhaps from the back there, and there's the clock movement attached to those. And so this is a different colour, as you can see as well, and I'm going to put the last pieces together with you. So you'll see on the inside, makes it rigid and keeps it together. There are two pieces like this one, and in fact the whole clock is held together with these little construction strips, and they look like this, and they are scored down the middle and folded. They're necessarily narrow because you don't want them to show over the sides of this ornamental filigree work that looks like the ironwork. So I'm going to show you how I put those together in a moment. But that's how I join all these pieces together, along here and along here. And I've put three of them here, one here, one here, and one here to take this. And I'm going to stick that piece in next. And so I'm going to just use my art glitter glue because it has a nice fine point, and I'm just going to glue that down onto this little platform that's made by these strips. So you can see, let's move it forward a little bit. I'm putting it along each of these strips. And when I've done that, I'm going to hold it in place. You'll see that I have coloured this with those distress inks, this time not just the cracked pistachio but also wilted violet, but I'm going to do it on the other piece in a minute to show you. So I'm now going to place this on here, and you need to hold it quite firmly in place until it's stuck. You can put little clips to hold it while it's sticking, but I can see whether I've got any to hand. Yes, I think I've got some over here. Just put one or two of those on, just to hold it together while it's sticking. There and here, making sure that all the edges match up nicely and that this is holding together. And when that's firmly stuck, we'll come back to it in a moment. Yeah. So we'll put that aside a moment, And this is the last piece of the side, and I've stuck 3 of them together, and this is how I did it, failing the fact that I didn't have any spray adhesive to hand. I put very fine lines, and I did it in parts actually, so that I could make sure that those, because it sticks fairly quickly and you need a fine amount on. I put fine lines down all the struts, as they might call them, and glue them together. So I'm going to put this glue on. This is why I didn't do a whole video doing this, because it would take forever. I can't say that this is a quick thing to make, but it's very satisfying when you've finished it. I know one lady on my Cricut Facebook forum used my file and made one of her own, and it looked very, very good. So it's quite possible to make, apart from me. So, making sure you've got this the right way up, and I mean with this line here to match that line there, put these together and make sure that they match completely at the corners. I get a very so maybe that's a good reason for me not to use, for me anyway, not to use spray adhesive, because it does give you a little time to move it around and make sure it's exactly right. And having done that bit, now I'm going to lift up this part and I'm going to do the bottom part. So more glue here. Make sure you cover everything. And along here and round all these little circles. And again, make sure that they fit perfectly together. And it's a good idea when you're doing it, I did it on the 3 pieces together, not this last one, to put a heavy book on that while it's drying, to make sure it dries nice and flat before you put it in your clock. So, leave it a good few minutes under a heavy book, which is what I did with all these other parts, to keep them nice and flat. And anyway, now I'm going to colour this one to look like that one, and I'm going to use a bit of, let's put this piece of paper underneath so I don't get it on my mat. I'm going to use a little Distress Oxide Violet, and I'm going to try and be quite subtle, just put it in various places to give a sort of, you could call it distressed look. There we are. And then I'm also going to use a little bit of this cracked pistachio colour. And put that in places. This is a more subtle colour, so you can put a little bit more on, and maybe the violet one, and just in sort of random spots where I think it might look good. A little bit more down there. And that's sort of the idea, and I can sort of blend it out a bit too, so it's not too, there we are. And I also used these Rub and Buff Gold Leaf and Spanish Copper. These are really messy actually, so I usually put them on with a brush, and I only put sparing amounts on there, just to give it a sort of age metallic look. There. The copper one is more subtle than the gold one, so and you can put it on with your finger. I've done that before. It's quite messy stuff, so I tend to use a little brush, and that's probably enough actually. Just a little bit more gold maybe, just a tiny bit, just there maybe, like that, just random again. And that's those. I'm just going to wipe this on a baby wipe. I just have some baby wipes nearby for my fingers, or my, I usually go and wash that, but I'll do that later. I'll get the worst of it off. There we are. And there we are. I think I've got tissue. I'm just going to put a little rub over. And now I'm going to attach it to the clock. So we need these. This one, this one is going to go under here to attach the side of the clock to there. I'll do that one first. So with a little piece of glue, a little strip of glue rather, under this, along this line here, like that. And maybe even rub it over to make sure it's properly covered. And baby wipe at hand. And then stick this one so that this bit's on the outside, because that's what you're going to glue the side to, and put it under there, like that. Now make sure it comes right up to the edges, and in fact sometimes even pinching it together helps the first one to attach in the right place. Oh, and I forgot to say, let's take it off again for a moment. It's quite a good idea if you cut, tape it a little bit on the ends, so that they, when the corners come together, they'll fit better. So I probably need a little bit more glue on there again. And I'll stick it back there again. And that sticks to there. And as I say, sometimes pinching it together like that helps getting it into the right place and firmly stuck and right up to the edge. My corner's a little bit long. I'm just going to chop a little bit off so it fits in better. And there. And you've got to do the same with the two longer pieces, and those are going to fit in from here down to the bottom, like that, and the same on the other side. So I'm going to glue those now. So long edge, a nice line of glue down there, rub it into place to make sure it's at every edge, and then that one goes there. from the foot, the bottom, right up to the top. And I forgot again, cut these pieces tapered so that they will fit together at the corners, like that. So, let's try again. In there, right up to the edge, as firmly as you can get it to stick. Right along there, right along that edge, like that. So, there's that. And finally, there's another one, which I can't see for a second. I know there's another strip. And I will find that and come back to you. Okay, I'm back. I found it. It was on the floor. So, same process with this one. It's folded down the middle. It's going to have a line of glue along here. Like that. Put it along, make sure it's covered properly. Baby wipe. And then this one goes here, along there, right to the corner. Slide that in there and pushes into place. And yes, I forgot to do the ends again, but this one, that one looks okay anyway. I'll just snip this one now. Right, and push them firmly right up to the edge, but make sure they're firmly attached all the way along. There's a moment to try. And then we're going to attach this part here, right on those ledges that we've formed by putting all those strips. And you can also put a piece of glue across there to make this join. So that's what I'm going to do next. Glue along here. Glue along here. And along here. And this is what stabilizes the clock, of course. These two pieces here and these all square and several layers of cardstock, and you'll be surprised how sturdy it does actually feel when it's done. And the last one, always the trickiest to get to stick together in the right place, because you've got to make sure it's firmly attached in all areas. And I am going to put a little clip here and just turn it so I can see, and make sure that this line and this line match this, and the bottom, so that it's nice and stable at the bottom. And clip here, corner, get that one, and another clip in this corner, get that one, and again make sure all the edges stick down nice and firmly. Hold them in place until you think they're firmly attached everywhere. While that's sticking, I'll tell you, the clock, when you attach the clock, this middle, like this here, this middle one, you have to make a little cut just where you think the clock will fit, so that the battery pack and the clock face, clock movement can join together. So you have to cut a small piece out about 1/4 of an inch to put your clock through. You'll see what I mean when you get to it. Otherwise it won't be in the middle. If you put it either side, your clock face won't be in the middle of your clock. And that looks like it's working pretty well. Make sure everything holds together. And there it is, quite sturdy really. Sometimes you have to go and check all these little places that they all stuck together, kept together, and you might have to glue 1 or 2 of those because you're using very small amounts of glue. I think there's one here, look, I can show you here. Because you're using very small amounts of glue, sometimes they don't all stick down properly. So you can go and check all those and glue down any that aren't quite together, like that one. So you need to check all of those at the end, that everything is all stuck and firm. And there we are. And so you can get in through the back to change the clock and everything else. Now, I have these are the little latches that were in the Fabulous Finds cartridge that I purchased, which as I say, are totally optional, but I put them on some of the corners just to finish it off, and I usually colour them with a little bit of distressing on the corners just to make them look a little distressed like the rest of the clock. And they're 2 layers, they're the black layer and then the green layer, and I just stick them on where I think they should go. Let's have a look on the front. I think one on this corner here. Hold that in place till it sticks, and as I say, it's purely for decoration, but it also kind of holds the edges in place. They don't need to be held together, but it makes it feel a little firmer anyway. And there's going to be another one down here. Hold that in place till it sticks. He doesn't want to. I'll put a bit more glue. In there. And I will stick all the rest of them on off camera to save a little bit of time, and I'll show you at the end what they look like. But you put them at the back as well at each corner, so there's 8 of them basically, and as I say, they're purely for decoration and not a necessity at all. So that's that one. And then there's the key and the padlock. Those I also put the paper back. I use my Distress Oxide to colour those up a little bit too, randomly, like the other one, other things. And this, but also on this, as I also did a little bit on the clock here and there. Let me see where, there's a bit there and a bit there. I put this, oops, I put this embossing powder to give it a sort of verdigris look, as I said. So it just colour that on the other side as well, a little bit. And the same on this one. Needs a bit of colour maybe down the bottom. And then to do the Distress Oxide, I just choose a random bit there, maybe a little bit here, and maybe this corner here and down there on the key, and I put maybe I'll fold this first so that I can put it back in the bottle afterwards, and I put a little bit of this on. Not too much, just subtle effect. Tap a bit off, and I'm going to emboss those. I just need to plug in my embossing, my heat tool I mean, just a second. Okay, I'm back and my heat plugged in, and I'm just going to emboss these. I used some of this Tim Holtz chain and these little links, and actually I made a little hole here with my crocodile punch, and I linked both of them together, and I hung them from one of these, oh it's the back, that's why. I hung it from here, from this top hole, and hung them down the back, and I'll do that and I'll show it to you at the end when it's all put together, but I won't do that on camera. And then after that, there's the feet. Now on this one I'm not going to put those fleur-de-lis feet, I'm going to put these Tim Holtz feet on the corners, just for a change, and that was a bad idea to put this here. I'll remove that and place that somewhere else afterwards. So, take that off. But I'm going to put these Tim Holtz feet on the corners here, and I'm because they start off looking like this, I put some rub and buff in both those colours I showed you earlier with a brush just on the highlights. I'll show you again, to make them tie in more with the colour of the clock, because I used a sort of coppery colour metallic paper when I use the Tim Holtz die, so I want to make those match. And here they are. I'll just do this one the same, show you how I did it, pick that up in a minute. And again, I just put a little bit on a brush and just dabbed it on the highlights from various places, and then also the Spanish copper one, which is much darker, and I put that on there as well. And when that dries, it stays perfectly well. It doesn't rub off easily. And just give that a wipe. And these I'm going to stick on each corner. I'm going to glue them on each corner like that. And I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use hot glue. So I will plug in my hot glue gun and I'll come back to you. Okay, I'm back. I decided I was going to glue my hinges on here, instead of down there, because the feet will cover them. So I did that one. You were away, and my glue gun is nice and hot. So now I'm going to start gluing my feet on. I think I'll do this side first. So what I'm going to do is put glue in this corner here and round in this corner here, making sure I'm not going to be above the level of the feet. And I'm going to push those on there and hold them in place until they stick. You can go just up to about this bar on each side. That one seems fairly stuck. So come over here and do this one. So this corner here across to about the middle of that, and just up to about that bar, and the same on this side, and across to about that bar. Make sure, nice layer of glue, and stick that one on. And push it up, make sure it's going to be level with the other side. And when you feel it's firmly stuck, you can do the others. I'm going to put it on its side for this because I don't want to put the clock face down on the bottom. Again, from about here up to about here. A little bit closer, and down here, and across to about there. Nice amount of glue, and get to the strings. Oh, this is particularly stringy, and stick that one on there. I'm covered in glue strings. Anyway, and make sure that that one is nice and stuck at the same level as the other one. Make sure your glue doesn't extend beyond the feet, make a mess. And then I'm going to go back down to this corner and do the last one. So from here across to about here on both sides, and stick that on, push it up, hold it in place till it's nice and firm. And hopefully these are all at the same level, and yes, that seems nice and stuck. Let's do this up at the back where the factory goes, and there it is. Looking good, huh? Now all we've got left is the flower decoration. And you'll find you've got small layers and big layers. And you have to fold them around and stick them together. You can see on the back there. And then I glued the small layer into the big layer, And on this one I did a variation. Instead of the yellow that I had in the middle of the others, I used black, and I just put a little bit of black stickles on the, I don't know what you call those, stamens I suppose, and stuck those down. And I've got a variation of colours. I've got the vine leaves, again there's 3 layers, two dark green layers and 1 pale layer on the front, so that it's got a bit of strength, and you can bend it a little bit to make it a bit more realistic looking, a bit like this. And I also changed it up a bit and did 2 with black on the front as well, just for this one, just for a variation. And then you just have to decide where you want the flowers to go. I usually stick the leaves down first and decide. On the other one they came across here. I don't think I'm going to do that this time. I think I'm going to have one down here like this, probably the dark one underneath, and the other one something like that. And then I'm going to have that one down there like that, and this one over the top, and then I'm going to randomly add the flowers in various places. So to do that, I think I'll probably place it down like this, and just lay out the flowers where I think I would like them to land. And that's my clock, by the way. Sounds like a bird. I don't know if you heard that. But that's what that is. And I may not use them all. I'll see how they look when I think it might be, maybe have this one come down lower like that, something like that. And you can cut them down a bit if you think they're too much, and I think I'm going to cut this one a little bit shorter on the front, something like that. And then the flowers, wherever you think they would look good. I think I'll put one of those there maybe, and one down here, and you don't have to put them all on. I don't want to overdo it. I felt maybe I overdid it a bit last time anyway. And I'm going to sort those out and stick those on, and I'm going to finish the whole thing up. Oh, before I stick all the flowers on and to do that, I forgot, there's the roof. Well, we've still got the glue gun out, so let's put those aside for now. I'll stick those on later anyway and show you them when they're all stuck. But there's the roof. Now the roof, I used quite a heavy cardstock that I brought back from England. You might want to do 2 layers of cardstock or something like that. And this is a sort of black on one side and a sort of slaty grey on the other. And I'm definitely going to put some distress inks on that before we go any further. So again, randomly, but to make it match in well with the other parts. There's a bit of green, now the violet, and I will blend those in a bit. And I think something like that is good. And as you can see, the roof is scored at either side, and I've just bent the edges up a little bit because I think it makes it, well, it's a bit, gives it a sort of edge to the clock. And this I definitely stick with hot glue, and what I do is put it on one side first, just along here, just along that edge. So I'm going to do that. Reasonable amount of glue, but not so much that it drips down the side of your clock. Right up to the edges. Stick that in place and hold it so that it's over either side. It's about 1/2 inch either side. Make sure you've got right up to the edge, which I don't think I had, but fortunately the glue is a little bit of forgiving time. And hold that in place until it dries. Excess glue on there, but when it's over the top I don't think it's going to notice. And I think I stuck it a little too low, so let's move it a bit. Up a bit. That's it. And see if that's going to fit down this side. So I'm back again. I had to re-stick and put this back on, and my advice to you is when you're sticking that side down is to make sure that it looks even on both sides before you actually stick it down. And I think mine is okay now, so I put a little bit of white glue just along the top just to sort of try and hold it in place a little bit, and I'm going to put the hot glue along this second side now in the same sort of place as I did on the other side, just along this top seam. And all that, dripping it down the sides, and now I'm going to hold that one in place to get it to stick. And maybe pull this out a bit so that it doesn't get pushed in while it's sticking. And hold that in place until it's firmly stuck. Okay. It wants to jump off. So, holding it down a bit longer. You can always add a little more glue, which I think I'm going to have to do. Oops. And hold it in place. The other one's stuck down a lot easier than this one. I don't know what the difference is. It's just but it came off and I redid it and it's been fine. So I'm going to hold that in place a bit longer, and then I'm going to stick the flowers on and put the key on the back and so on, and the lock, and I'll come back to you and show you it all put together. So here I am back again, and here's the clock put together, the roof on, feet on, everything else. Oh, and I stuck the flowers on. I did a slightly different design to the other clock. I put a few down here and a few up the side here, and this was just a different arrangement. The only thing left to do is to put the key and padlock on. I've got the Tim Holtz chain that I've just put a piece on here, and it's quite simple. I'm just going to attach it here with the little clip thing that holds them together. So I dangle the chain through the hole, she says, hopefully, and bring it back out here, and I think it's going to work. There we are. And there it is. Again, that's completely optional. It's just something I chose to decorate it with, and if I did another one, there's something I just dropped, I would probably do something different. So I'm just going to recap and show you the two clocks together. This is the one we've just finished in the green. This is the original one, which is the one I showed you on the computer. But if you do want to do one that's this shape instead, I'm going to post both files. And if you look, so this one is wider to accommodate this bigger clock face, and that's because on this one I wanted to use the Tim Holtz Biggs die to see how that went. This one doesn't take more paper overall, but whereas two sides of this one will fit onto one sheet, these side pieces, and the little pieces that join the whole thing together inside will fit onto two sheets. This one, it spreads it onto more sheets, so this takes a bit more 12 by 12 paper if you use this design than this one does. As I said, this one I tried to make the clock face look like the one on my original clock, which is over here. So I distressed it with vintage photo. I actually painted it with Tim Holtz crackle glaze, just to give it a bit of a sort of vintage feel to it. And that clock face, as you can see, is smaller. And then of course it's got these fleur-de-lis feet, one of which on each corner, which I didn't show you how to do, but I'm sure you can work that one out for yourself. And they also have some of this verdigris embossing on, and a little bit of distressing on in the copper, and and this one, as I say, this one had a fastening at the back, which I think I could tighten that up a bit, but it's one of those little twist fasteners, and I wasn't so keen, so I tried this. I just bought a little clasp and attached it to both sides, as I mentioned yesterday. And is there anything else to tell you? I don't think so, except that I think you could do all sorts of variations on this clock. I have in mind to do a Halloween one in sort of oranges and purples and blacks and sort of cobwebs and bats and things. I thought that would be rather cool. And also I've just started, I'll move this aside so you can see. I haven't got very far, but I've also started one that's going to be a wedding clock. You'll see this is rather smaller. Firstly, I wanted to use 8 by 11 paper, letter size, normal letter size, and also I'm going to be taking it to England in a couple of weeks for a friend, and I thought it would be easier to transport. But I'm going to do this one. I don't think I'm going to distress this one at all. It's going to be all in whites and golds, and various sort of wedding-y decorations and little die cuts. And the roof I'm going to have embossed sort of satiny kind of paper with gold edges. So we'll see how that turns out. I'll take a picture when it's done, and the variations, and I hope you'll have a go, and please let me see pictures of what you do if you make one, because I'm really interested to see them. And I hope to be making another video soon. Bye.